Skip them. All right, now recording. So, today we will continue on with our discussion of sessions in PHP. We are going to continue our somewhat longer example involving a password login system. This is a continuation from previous. So if everybody could please at this time load up XAMPP, the hated VS Code, and the zip file which I sent in the announcements feed at the end of last class.
Week 7 zip file?
It's called like week7.zip. It should be the second announcement. Unless you want me to just start from scratch as review.
That would be sure.
Yeah, would you guys rather I start from scratch?
No.
Okay,
Just go really fast.
I'll try. Lightning round.
No, I'm honestly neutral. No strong feelings about this one way or the
I find it very irritating how recently I've been in the middle of a thing and just VS Code stops saving.
Oh.
You know? Like I was doing a lecture yesterday and I had to like bust myself down to Notepad because VS Code just stopped.
It just stopped?
Yeah.
That's great. I think that's more of like a key thing, like only school district.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll do Notepad++ instead. You guys want Notepad++ instead?
Actually having to write out all the HTML code? I mean, heck,
This is a PHP class. Do we need the boilerplate?
I mean, we have it in the example, but like, I don't know.
It'll be fine.
Okay, cool.
The boilerplate is a lot less essential. For our purposes here, it's completely
Yeah.
non-essential. If you were actually releasing something on the actual internet, you should have the boilerplate.
Yeah.
You should say what language the website is in, right?
Should be obvious. The Queen's English.
Well, unfortunately, our dearly departed king, it's now the King's English.
Well,
That's pretty neat.
I'm trying
Put in Notepad++.
to pretend that didn't happen.
For how long?
6 or 7 years until the next one takes over.
So you'd rather be reigned by a dead monarch?
I mean,
He's not that far away.
and it's a very inauspicious name.
It is. It's true. I can't believe you went with Charles.
I don't know, I think it's a pretty cool thing that he has a bunch of people carry around his bed so he can sleep wherever he goes. I think that's pretty cool.
He's probably not going to die a violent death.
I mean, when you're king.
Like,
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, you know what happened to Charles I and Charles II?
bad things.
They died?
Executed.
They died horribly during revolutions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see, Oliver Cromwell the second.
Sounds like we're,
Wasn't Charles II like at 15 years old or something?
Yeah, did someone off him because they wanted this one for the I can't.
But anyway,
English history is
so-
convoluted.
Your attention, please. So, okay, so we have a bit of a choice. Last time I was doing the login system with a kind of one-page app approach, but I can also do this in a more kind of Ajax-y way, but that will require me putting some JavaScript on the screen. Are you guys okay with JavaScript?
Yes.
Yeah? You want, it's useful to see both ways, right? So, okay. So in that case, we will make a index.html page. Wow. All right. We'll save you as. Is it warm in this room?
Yeah.
Gross.
You would have said no though, you would have been like, nope, then.
Index.html, save type as Haskell, polyproof.
But it's
Hypertext markup
save
language.
it
I was watching a podcast and they were making fun of Haskell programmers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. I mean, you,
I've never seen the language, so I didn't get the joke.
I did my
I know that's why I
thesis
thought
in
of
it,
that.
yeah. Zoom. Control plus mouse wheel, I think. There we go. Is that too big?
Nope, that's perfect.
Oh, this is HTML.
It is.
HTML.
Did you really use Notepad++?
Okay, so
It is.
I don't know, just type in an exclamation mark and get all the other things. Pretty nice.
So, we're making a login page, right? I immediately regret my decisions. I think I wanted to make this a PHP file. Quite easily done. Save, get out of here. What? Oh, alright. Slight pause whilst I adjust my accoutrements.
Just like
So, if we go in to htdocs, where we have our index page, first of all, what do we always do in Windows Explorer? New file extensions.
Is there a reason it's not checked by default, or is that just because?
Windows things are still.
Listen, I'm going to keep my rage down
I'm
so that I
sorry,
can
Windows doesn't
continue
want
this
you messing with
example.
things.
I wasn't sure if you had an explanation
Yes.
aside from it's garbage.
My explanation is that Windows thinks that you are an idiot
Don't
and
trust the
treats you
user.
like a child.
Don't trust the
That's
user.
why, that's why.
Okay.
Don't trust the user.
Yes, don't, yeah, although,
Shit.
if it's your bloody operating system. So anyway, very easy, once you've got the file extension exposed, just pop the PHP on there. Are you sure you want to change it? Yes.
You can just right click and name it and do that, or you're not.
Index.php. So now, because this is hopefully an intelligent editor,
Disable the big sound.
there we go. That's wrong, immediately wrong. So, in order for logins to work, we want to start a session. How do we start a session?
Start session.
Very good.
Start.
Session underscore start. Session underscore start. Hey look, Notepad++ does have autocomplete. The one useful feature in VS Code. Does it not monopolize it? So, session start.
Don't listen to me.
You can't listen, it's closed. I didn't even load it. So, recall that session start creates a new session if one does not already exist, and it continues an existing session if it detects that the session cookie has been returned. Right? So, where do all of our session variables get stored? In the session superglobal. That's right. So, let's make a nice little login form on our HTML page, or let's do this the JavaScript way. making a div. Input type is equal to text. Name is equal. Name doesn't matter actually. ID is equal to user input. It is actually quite warm in this room. Button submit button text will be log in. This is perhaps a review for other courses you've taken. ID, well, on click, there we go, is equal to login function. So far so good?
Want to throw some bootstrap in there too, or?
Nah.
Shut up.
Oh, sorry.
Don't say it, man.
He's gonna call your bluff.
We all have to do
But bootstrapping everything so easy.
So, next we want to throw in our little script. Source is equal to yes.js. Is it a script? Yes. Script. Here we go. Now we need to actually have that. New file, save as. Don't worry, I'll split screen it. Just give me a second. Yes.js. There we go. Multiple, where is? Maybe I can just. There we go. All right. So we're going to need function. Oh man. There we go. Function. Login. There we go. Bing, bang, boom. So this will be a fetch request. But first we're going to need the values out of the input text boxes. So let u equal document. Oh look, does it autocomplete JavaScript as well? Query selector. Is this still visible from the back? Is this good? Okay. Query selector user input. There we go. And then pass input shall be called P. I'm just going to do this with get parameters quickly. Again, for visibility, I'm not going to use post, even though this is a password, and if this were for realsies, you would use post. All right? But I'm going to do it with get just so that you can see everything going on, because this is a teaching example. Okay?
Makes sense.
Good. So, let URL equal login.php, query u is equal to the value of u, and p is equal to the value of p, semicolon. Now I perform my fetch request. Fetch URL. I'm pretty sure for get you don't have to actually provide any of the options, like I'm doing something normal. We'll see if this works. Then, what is it? Response gets response dot text, just text for now. Then I don't know. Console dot as so we'll just echo out the result or log the results of the. Am I making mistakes?
No, quick. No, just trying to keep up.
Okay.
And you went back and changed a bunch of stuff, so I'm like, oh, let me.
Yeah. Yeah, that might get a bit better.
Yeah, me too.
I think I'm just close. Oh,
What are you talking about? Semicolons are optional in JavaScript.
Until they're not.
Yeah. This is what I mean when I say like
you still have an end curly bracket.
am I missing one?
You don't have a curly
Oh, true. Actually, why couldn't I just put that all on one line?
Oh, that's what I'm missing.
So, in summary, we've got our login function in JavaScript. It's pulling the username and password from our respective input elements in the document, constructing the URL for a GET request, which sends these parameters to the server. Then all I'm interested in right now is that I'm getting valid responses from the server. So this also comes down to my general heuristic, which I'm telling everyone, I tell everybody all the time, do a little step and then test it. Do a little step and then test it. If I were to continue on here and be like, okay, I'm going to write the whole login script in PHP, right? And then there's some stupid little problem with the fetch request. It makes it much more difficult for me to find that problem because I'm trying to do too much at once. Do a little bit, make sure it works, then go do the next bit. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So, let's see if this works, shall we? Localhost 10.3. There we go. So we've got our page elements. Let's add asdiff. So by the way, I think I mentioned this last time, but when you're doing a password text box, there is an actual input type for passwords. It puts the asterisks over, but again, for the purposes of teaching, I'm not going to include that here. But obviously, if you were doing a real password, that's what you would do, right? Log in. Let's see what we've got going on in the console. Aha! See? You see? You see why you test everything? I made a mistake. I should have said dot value. So here's so a little bit of JavaScript review. If you don't say dot value when you're taking the input element, you've got the reference to the object in the DOM, right? If you try to convert that to a string, it'll say something like, this is a JavaScript object. So, boop. There we go, save. We've now got dot value on both of those. Refresh. Log in. There we go, and you can see that the thing that gets echoed back, the first one is the incoming get parameters, and you can see that those are being received correctly. So far, so good. Right?
Yep.
Good. Everybody good so far? Yeah, shall I continue? Issues?
404 not found.
You probably have a file name problem.
Get error somewhere?
Punch, it's not a teapot.
I wish, man.
I want one day to
You're
scrub
trying to
my
access index.php,
Oh, that might be.
not
Yeah,
login.php.
you did a
File name problem. Just like I said.
The login for my last.
Because we created a new.
Oh, go back to right here.
Yeah, what? Sorry?
On that first index page, just has session start.
Yeah, this, I actually just renamed index.html to index.php because I wanted PHP. Because eventually I want to be able to not show the login screen based on whether you're logged in. Which is kind of one-page AppSy, but, you know, I really wanted to get the login script separated out this time. So, alright, continuing on. We now turn our attention to the PHP.
The login one or the?
Login.php. So, what do we do with incoming get parameters? We sanitize them. U is equal to input filter underscore input input underscore get. The name here is U, and then filter sanitize special chars.
I got a question.
Hit me.
Do you use caps lock or do you just hold down shift? Which one?
I hold down shift actually. Yeah.
I'm just curious about that because I also hold down shift. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's better? Is it better to try and toggle caps lock all the time or?
See, this guy like gets so little exercise most of the time. You know?
I think he's like 50% of your hand strength though.
Yeah, really? Well, 52% of mine, because I hold shift to keep the thing perfect.
Work it out.
That's actually, you know, there are actually like almost no muscles in your actual hands. It's like all here, and it's tendons that pull these things.
Yes, it's the muscle here.
Yeah. Do you know why though?
This one?
No. Why are all the muscles for your hand down here and not in your actual hand?
I get my hands a lot, I'm sure. Probably because your hands would be useless for like dexterity.
Because they're heavy.
Yeah.
And the heavier they are, the closer they should be to your core. Because like otherwise, it increases the amount of torque that you need to move your hand. So yeah, it's like it conserves the body's energy to have the muscle group actually down here that controls the hand.
Ever used a tens machine before?
Have I seen what?
Tens machine? It basically just has two pads and it sends an electrical current between both the pads. They use it a lot if you have like overstrained muscles in because it flexes it and releases it.
Yeah.
But then I've also fucked around with it and like put one
They
ear
use that
one
for,
ear, and then like you don't actually bend your fingers without your control because it's sending a charge to it and it's just weird. You're like,
That's cool. Let's continue. So now that we've filtered our inputs, we now have to do something with them. If we recall from the previous example, we needed a JSON file containing credentials. So let's recreate that now. file, save as, file, save as, Control-Alt, save. Oh, man. Gotta rebind that. Call this credentials.json. Probably not. User root pass blank string. There we go.
Seems like a secure attachment.
I mean, that's the default one on routers, right? A lot of the time. Let's say we have SpongeBob, password is I am ready. Mr. Krabs, password is money. Patrick, password is password. That's a joke because Patrick in SpongeBob is the stupid character.
It's okay, Rob. Do what you want.
So, in order to log in, we must check our received parameters against the credentials database to see if we have any entries matching both username and password. In order to do this, we must first load the credentials database. Ooh, did this just become test review? Did this just become test review for file IO right now? So, how do we open a file? True, but normally we take the file name and assign it to a variable first. JSON. There we go. Now, file handle, F, open. Nope. File name. Read or write mode.
Read.
So what letter do I use?
R.
Yep, there we go. Very good, very good. How do I take a file and grab the JSON? Fread, good. Fread, well, not just fread, but we'll start there. Fread, what's the first thing?
JSON decode,
Well, yes, that's true. But let's just do the reading first.
file.
FH, that's right. First argument is the file handle. What is the second argument of fread? The length, that's right. It's the number of bytes we want to read out of the file. Now, when we want to read the whole file,
Files.
then we want the file size. File size, but file size is a little bit funny. It doesn't take the file handle, it takes the file name. Because it's not part of, so the file size function is not part of the fopen, fread, fclose. Ooh, I just gave it away. Chain. It's like a separate operating system command, so it operates on file name. And then, of course, fclose or file handle. And of course, the thing that you said, it is a JSON, so we need to JSON decode. We need to JSON decode, but not only that. Look, Notepad++ is even giving you like the arguments.
Oh, you need to assign it true.
Yeah. Because I'm going to be using it as an associative array, I need to tell JSON decode that I want it decoded as an associative array. That's why the second argument, JSON decode, is true. Now, let's say just for the sake of argument, you were, I don't know, writing a test or something, I wouldn't expect you to put all of these operations on one line. It's depending on like how big your writing is. That might be like too much for a line on a piece of paper, or maybe that just looks confusing. It's totally okay to assign like this bit to a temporary variable and then use it here. Like you don't have to cram that all in one line to get the marks. You just have to do it in such a manner that it would work in the computer.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Nope.
Is that fair?
Good.
So, by the time we get that little block accomplished, we now have the creds, or I guess screds, variable, which contains all of our credentials as harvested from the JSON file. The next thing that we have to do is to loop through the thing to look for a match between our received get parameters. So how do we loop through an associative array? What's the best way? Correct. For each. For each creds as key getting the value. If I'm kind of violating my rule a little bit here. In theory, what you should do now is you should echo like these results to make sure that your file I/O is working correctly, but I'm pretty confident that my file I/O is working, so I'm going to skip that. We're just going to not test this bit. We're going to move on. So, if username is strongly equal to the key and password is strongly equal to the value, we have a match. Echo valid. And I'm just going to leave it there. Let's test it now. Okay, I'll give you guys a moment to get that down. Note, in all of computing, this double ampersand might be the most important one to not confuse for an OR. Right? Because if it was an OR, then if you matched either the username or the password, you'd get it, you know?
Very secure.
Yes. So, let us refresh. ASDF, login. We get nothing. But if we say Mr. Krabs, password is money, login. Oh. So, now we do have to debug. So, I expected this to return or to print valid, and it hasn't. So now I need more information. More information. In my case, when I need more information, I try to get as much of it as possible. So we're going to do a great big echo. U-K-P-B break. There we go. Array to string conversion. That seems like a problem. Array to string conversion on line 16. So let's take a look at line 16. So one of these things is an array. Can anybody see the problem? Why is this for each loop not working?
Because. Looking for you and B, but you have user and pass.
No, user and pass are on the HTML side. Here, everything is U and B.
But are they going?
So seperti if statements be like B and res brackets and U equal to U.
So, to put it another way, what is the top level data structure here?
That's an array.
That's an array, not an associative array, right? Although the associative arrays inside of this list are ultimately what we want to talk about, you always have to approach a JSON from the top level down to the bottom level, right? So, in this case, I have misconstrued what my data actually looks like. At the top level, it is not an association pair. It is a series of dictionary, or it's a series, well, in Python you call them dictionaries. It's a series of associative arrays, right? So, let's call this entry, and now, instead of key and value, we have entry at user and B at entry at pass. And while we're at it, let's throw those in too. Entry becomes sentry.
That's enough words.
I think that's an upgrade. I think that's just an upgrade.
Yeah. So, let's try her again. Okay, yep. You see we are actually getting our our values here. So let's try Mr. Krabs and money. Log in. And you can see right there, we get valid. So now that we've determined, now that that information is no longer useful to us, we can safely comment it out, as indeed we can comment out these guys. Save. There we go. Refresh. There we go. Login validated on a valid login. Login not validated on a non-valid valid login. Does that make sense? Question?
I'm getting an invalid argument entry there. It says it's on
Show me your JSON file. Oh, first save it. Show me your credentials. Oh, creds.js, not JSON. Oh yeah. Well, it's not JSON. It's
Well,
not
I was
JavaScript.
getting an error up, I think, up here when I had it as JSON ID, but they never even typed JSON ID. Like,
Well, yeah, because
because it's not. Oh, okay, so I actually have to type that. Oh, I see, because I had it as JavaScript. Okay.
that shouldn't be the problem, though.
I mean, we can try it again.
Yeah.
It's JSON there. That was the other issues.
show me your code again.
This is, I don't need the breaks, but that was from your, echo line.
Yeah.
Unless,
Well, you're failing
Oh,
here, right?
yeah, I'm feeling like,
Line
this
16.
white line usually means.
Because what happens is that this safety
Maybe missing like a, bracket or something, but I'm not sure.
No, you're not. It's just been indented one level for whatever reason. That actually is going on indentation. F close is not.
Yeah, but it's closing all of it, so like it's probably not supposed to be that, right?
No, that's it. If you just delete one,
Oh, it's just random.
that's yeah, that's all it's doing. Well, if it's using the indentation to tell it where you're supposed to be doing code folding. It has nothing. It's not like reading F close and saying this is something that folds code.
Oh.
That's not what it's doing. It's just going on indentation level. Try just printing credentials, like just echo credentials and see what you get. Yeah. Okay. 2-minute break. I'll be right back.
Can I switch your index?
Yeah. Yeah. Pull up whatever you need. Yeah.
So double dollar sign on variable
Makes
must
it harder
be
to understand what I'm looking at, that's so much, but
just
hey, if it helps you.
It saves space, that's it. It's literally just there to save space. Or this.
double dollar sign.
If it helps you.
Variable.
Maybe soon you guys will start working on the community together. And then you'll actually have to live with mine.
Okay.
The fact that putting double dollar sign on your variable isn't an automatic hash in PHP is annoying.
Interpreted languages.
But it's a thing, it's a variable.
It's just a variable.
It's a unique feature that enables dynamic variable handling, allowing you to create variables using the values of other variables.
It essentially allows you to Python things.
Doesn't PHP do that anyways?
I don't know.
Well, there's
I
a
don't get it.
dedicated thing in
I don't get it.
PHP, that's for sure.
Oh, that's okay, because like,
Really do it. You can
Oh,
100% do it.
I should say this also. I discovered yesterday to my great chagrin, that you know how we had that whole thing in lecture about the difference between session unset and session destroy?
Yes,
You want to see the PHP documentation on that subject?
it's like 74 pages.
No? Here,
Please tell me.
PHP.net.
It exists.
Oh, it exists.
Okay.
Session unset, let's take a look at unset first. The session unset function frees all session variables currently registered.
Okay. So just,
Nice, simple description.
okay. But it leaves them as it. Free, okay. But it leaves the session going.
Session destroy.
The warning.
Note, you do not have to call session destroy from usual code, clean up session array rather than destroying session data. And if you read this description, it says basically nothing that unset doesn't do. It's just
So don't use destroy then?
use session unset. Now there's also session abort.
I did see
That's politically correct.
historic session of rage.
And it finishes.
That's a sensitive topic. We don't.
We don't bring politics into the coding field.
No, come on. We can have our own jargon. Yeah. If they start talking about deleting fetuses, we will still use the word delete. Thank you.
I mean, we do kill
Fetus
children.
deletus is what you call it, isn't it?
Like, I'm not gonna judge you on the way you comment your code.
Yeah. So anyway, the thing that I thought session destroy did is actually done by session abort.
Okay.
Finishes session without saving data, thus the original values in the session data are kept. But well, never mind, that also does something else. Oh goodness. So that's like throws out changes.
That's the original value. So session A is ending, but there's still values in for session A.
Hello, Rod, you are not allowed. Hello, Rod, you are not allowed.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there is a session. Okay, alright. With respect to what I previously said, session destroy, don't use it because PHP says don't use it.
Okay?
Alright?
When the own documentation says don't use this.
That's like all of C documentation,
Yeah. So,
So don't use C.
not a bunch of standard features.
alright. Continuing on. So now that we have a way of logging in, we need a way of reporting that login to the HTML, to the JavaScript, so that JavaScript can then do something, right? So, in our login script, let us create a response. So we're going to change somewhat fundamentally what this PHP script does. It will no longer return just plain text. It will now return a JSON object. Right? The purpose of doing this is so that we can do things like report error messages and report on the states of things. This is what JSON is for, actually. So let's create a new associative array. Response is equal to blank. Here we go. Instead of echoing valid, let us say response at success is equal to true. And if you want to get ultra fancy, if you set it false before the loop, and it only gets set true if this comes out true, then you don't have to worry on the JavaScript end about, checking to see if success is set. You can just check to see if it's true or false. Right? Make sense? Of course, here's a question. How do Boolean literals print in PHP? Make them strings. Stupid language. I'm sorry, but I shouldn't have to include those quotes.
No, especially since you're actually setting the goal.
Yeah. Right? I mean, from a programming perspective, like it doesn't really make any difference in the end, because like that's what it would string convert to once you JSON encoded it, if the language weren't stupid. But because the language is stupid, we have to do stuff like that. Make sense? So, in this manner, let's say just for the sake of interest, we will want to see the state of the session superglobal, so we want to print some kind of error message, or some kind of message. We can say, pop response up there, response at message is equal to JSON encode the session. Make sense? This is basically also how the assignment works, assignment 2. So if you haven't started assignment 2 yet, this is how the sell and buy items expect you to like send information. Make sense? So it's assignment review too.
Yeah.
Whee! So we now need to make a little tiny modification in the JavaScript. JavaScript. There we go.
You know, you could set up like the whole tree view with your files and stuff in Notepad++.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you go File and you open a folder, it's Open Folder as Workspace. It's the yeah, that as well. But yeah, now you have your whole week set up now.
Cool.
More cool stuff.
Yes. The only the only thing is it consumes too much space.
Yeah.
So
We have second monitor. Do it over there.
don't even get me started on second monitors, man. So
Sorry.
that's okay. So quick modification. If we replace text on line 6 here with JSON, then JavaScript will automatically decode our incoming packet response as JSON, which means result. Well, we can just see what result prints as actually. Mr. Krabs money. Boop. Ah. Response.json is not a function.
Lowercase. Is it lowercase?
We shall see. Unexpected end of JSON input. That normally means, so when you get that error, normally that means that you're not just printing JSON, right? You usually have forgotten like a regular echo statement, but in my case, because I'm an absent-minded professor, I actually forgot to even echo the response at all. So echo JSON encode response. There we go. So now, if I reload, there you go. You can see that we get a JSON object, message is empty, and success is equal to false. If I go Mr. Krabs money, there we go.
Non-whitespace character after JSON.
White space shouldn't matter because white space gets gobbled in JSON.
And then uncall it in progress syntax error, unexpected non-white space error.
Oh. Check to make sure you're not echoing anything else. There we go. So the question then becomes, what do we do with this now? We have determined whether login was successful or not. Presumably, the website has some secure page or series of secure pages that the login was meant to protect, right? So let's make a new HTML page, although it's actually going to be a PHP page. File, new, call this locked page.php. There we go. Now, because again this is session, we want to call session start.
My VS Code has expired.
Yep. Notepad++ still going. Copy, so what you do is you take your file contents, copy it to Notepad before you shut down VS Code using Control-Shift-Escape. So, let's say this is a, like imagine this was your bank or something, right? It's something that's supposed to be behind a login screen. Say. So, on the JavaScript side, we now want to be a little bit more complicated here, right? We're not just, so we still want to send stuff to the console, but we want to send the message, result.message to the console. And we want to do other stuff as well. So if result dot success is equal to true, because I don't think it will automatically Boolean convert it. Although, I guess I could just check. Nope, that's a string. Okay. If success is true, what should we do? If you successfully log in, what does it do typically? It redirects you to the other page. Yeah. Right. Or like the dashboard, or whatever you do, where the successful login is supposed to redirect you. So does anybody know how to perform a redirection in JavaScript?
Is that double equals in the if statement?
I don't think it matters, so yeah.
Okay.
You could make it strict if you want to. So window.location.href. Alright. We'll try it. Our page we are redirecting to is lockedpage.php. There we go. Save, save, save. And let's see if this works. Reload. Uh-oh. Missing. Uh-oh. Line 8.
Yeah, I'm getting an error at the semicolon at the end of console log.
Yeah, how do you do this again? Is it function? It's supposed to be a lambda. Find function callback result. Let's see. Don't copy it down until I make sure it works. Seems to. Okay. There you go. Okay, so that works. I couldn't remember how to do the thing, so I just externalized a callback function. So, this successfully performs the redirection, but, well, like we're redirecting the page, but I wouldn't consider the page to be locked, right? Because I got here through the login, but if I were to just if I were to open up a new browser, just for full effect, throw in the same URL, right? The page does not know that whether or not you're authenticated. And the reason for that is we have actually, believe it or not, gotten like an hour and 8 minutes into class, and we have to actually use the session variable, the session superglobal. So, let us return to our PHP script.
Just make sure I got it.
Yep. So, upon successful validation, we must not only report to the client that we successfully logged in, we must report to ourselves. We must set the session superglobal with this information. So, QED, quite easily done. Session at valid is equal to true, and session at user is equal to you. We store in the session whether or not the user has a valid session. This is for the purpose, on our locked page, of knowing whether or not the server approves your access.
Can you go back to the lock page for a second? Just show page. Session store. That's what it was.
So, this is actually the next page I wanted anyway.
Well, that's
How convenient. So now, we need to make some decisions about whether or not we present content on the locked page based on the values in the session superglobal. So, if session valid show the secrets. Else well, HTML should go here, I guess. I don't like that. Page with secrets. And this one is page with no secrets. There we go. So this is like the thing that's supposed to be locked. This is the thing that's supposed to say, hey, you're trying to access something that's locked. Right? So
I believe there's a semicolon at that bottom PHP one. And
This one?
End of curly brace?
nope. Curly braces don't need semicolons at the end of them.
Oh, I got that.
Be gone. Put that in H1. Let me demonstrate how this works.
Wait,
Okay. I'm waiting.
That's not stressful.
I had a university professor once who counted down the last 60 seconds of a midterm. So do you know what the class did? They counted down the last 60 minutes, or the last 60 seconds of his last class. And let me just say, he dished it a bit better than he could take it. So let's start from the top. If we have an invalid login, it doesn't work. Obviously, if you wanted like a proper login system, you would give like invalid username, password, message here, but let's just keep moving. If you have valid login, oh, that's invalid, try that one, bonk. We get, imagine this was your bank or something. However, if we go to a different browser which does not share the session, and we attempt to go to this URL, there you have it. Oh, we're getting an index. Yeah. That's the JavaScript component, I think. No, that's the PHP complaining. Oh, I know why. So, in the PHP script, I'm only testing to see if valid is true or false. I'm not testing to see if valid even exists. right? So, the easy way to do that is set. And you can do that all in one line using short circuit evaluation. Remember, under short circuit evaluation, if it's an ampersand, if the first thing turns out false, none of the rest will be executed, which means that if it's false, it won't produce that error. So our error message goes away. We are denied access. Make sense? Good? So far so good? Any questions?
Yes, I still have an unexpected white space.
He's got things going on.
Do not know.
Let me put the code up for the benefit of people.
So close to but it's on the block, it's on the wall. If this was my own monitor, it wouldn't be on the back of it.
Okay. That's your issue right there. It's not a JSON. No trouble. Does anybody else need so go to your
No, but I can't even write it correctly to debug it.
it'll be in login.
Well, that was an error because of debugging. So you should remember
Might actually be in
I'll fill the debugging again.
I don't
You got one of those too.
I got nothing. Oh, I'm more.
So the problem is being reported from the JavaScript that's not originating. Basically, it's this guy. It's like I'm trying to decode a JSON, but you have not given me a JSON. That's the problem. So there's got to be some kind of echo going on.
Oh, so it shouldn't be.
There we go. Yeah, echo will attach it. You have the same problem? Nope. You have a problem with the login script? It's echoing more than it should be. Maybe?
I think it's in JSON because I have different.
It's alright. Excuse me?
Well, yeah, because that's not a valid user in separate credentials.
That's not JSON.
That's what I was thinking.
Assignments can only have writable values, line 7. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Yes. So try just grabbing that URL and accessing it from a browser. Like if you have a different browser installed, because another browser won't be part of the same session. Yeah. Ooh, you've got electronics.
It's not fun.
Maybe it's just me then. Alright, well, Try saving it. Alright. If I make the thing which is usually useful as this, stop. The thing which is usually useful here is to take a look at the network tab, see what the response actually is. So there you have it. If you fix those and make the output an actual real JSON, you'll be in much better position. Yes? Basically, the thing isn't parsing as a JSON, because that's two things. So, go back to login,
I don't understand
and
why.
an echo somewhere.
It's the only thing I don't have that you use actual words.
Okay, so.
Oh!
That. Else.
Oh!
Right.
Got it
Good.
inside the loop, so
Nothing,
it's
nothing
echoing
broken.
many times.
Yes.
So if you pop it to the bottom, outside the loop. Yep.
Surprised you didn't put dark mode on Notepad++.
How do you do that?
You go to settings,
Settings, preferences,
preferences, yep, and then you got the dark mode tab.
dark mode.
Yep. And you can also change the colors there. When you see black, red, green and stuff, your pop-ups will be a slightly different pink.
That's okay. Is this still visible from the back? Is this a good color scheme? Do you prefer the other way?
I prefer white.
Yeah. White is better? Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. So. All this is good, right? We can do a couple of other things which are fun. It would be reasonably easy to do things like hide the login screen and automatically redirect if you are logged in. So if somebody tries to re-access the login page, if they're already logged in, it just redirects them back. You want to see that? That one's pretty quick. Sure. Okay, let's do it. So on our index page, remember that this is PHP enabled. So we can pop in a little PHP script here. If session, well, basically this condition here, if the session is set, and if it's valid, then we're going to do something else. Else, we're going to do this thing. Right? So even just as it is, this will enable or disable the login dialog if you are logged in or if you're not logged in, right? So if we go back to our index.php, that's in Firefox, that's our non-logged in session. If we go back to index.php, you'll see that we no longer have the dialog appear, right? Fair enough. We also want to do the redirection. Redirection would be easily accomplished. Instead of throwing the div in, throw a little tiny script in. Just a little script. Tiny little script. And grab that bit here. Throw that in there. There we go. So now, if the session is valid, redirect to the locked page. If the session is not valid, ask for login credentials. Technically speaking, you don't have to put this in an else case because, you know, this is a bit like a return statement, you know? This will terminate the page. So, but, you know, if you're being a little careful, like maybe, for example, your client has like redirects turned off for some reason. Like that's the other thing that you would do here if this were a real example. It would say, if the redirect didn't work, click this link, which I'm sure everybody's seen a few times, right? Because JavaScript redirections are, you know, a notorious source of trying to steal cookies and that sort of thing. Right? Make sense? So, save. Let's see how this works. If I reload the index page, you can see that I'm bumped back to the locked page. If I just try index, pop, it just pops me back to the locked page because I'm logged in. Right? Now, the thing that would complete this example is to do a log out button, which obviously is, you know, if we're going to go this far with the example, we should have some way to restore ourselves to the previous state, right? So, aside from destroying our session cookie. So, adding a log out button, reasonably easy. Where is locked page? There we are. Okay. Button. Log out. And the button. On click. Log out. And just for convenience, I'm going to have both pages load the same JavaScript file. I'm going to put the logout in the same JavaScript file as I was using before. Does that make sense? Perhaps it doesn't, but I'm going to do it anyway. Of course, you don't need that if all you're doing is, you know, script source is equal to yes.js and script. Because like the JavaScript doesn't have any functionality in it that just fires on its own. It's just function definitions. So it's basically just kind of a library, right? It's not autonomous JavaScript. So we can write a function log out. We don't have to take any parameters, but we will need this guy. URL will be logout.php. Let's just put this back to doing console.log response, just so that we can make sure that our communication is functioning. Again, whenever you're doing an AJAX call, I recommend testing it first. Test to make sure the communication is occurring before you do anything else. Okay? So, let's make a new file. over here. Call this one logout.php. There we go. Make sense? This one, the intention is to eventually call session unset. In order to unset the session, you must first load the session you intend to unset. So, open PHP. Session start. Session okay. Let me just echo something. Like that. And that way, in our browser, we have a logout button, we click it, we get logout success, even though we haven't actually done anything yet. Through this, we can see that our communication is working. Alright? Now, flipping back to here. Very simple. We call session unset. There we go. Very, very simple script. Refresh, log out. Logout has been successful. So the logout has been successful, but our page has not been refreshed, right? So to complete this process, in JavaScript, we're going to have to do something like redirect back to the login page. Or, load the load page, like just, cause a refresh event or something. So if I refresh manually, you can see I get you are no longer logged in, right? You are not logged in the page. And if I go back to index, you can see it doesn't kick me out of index. It's not performing the redirect. I am still here. It's asking for my login credentials. Question?
Can you go back to the yes for a second?
Yes. Yeah. But don't get too comfortable, because I'm about to change that. Although, no, I don't think I have to. This one's like, I can just watch for the string, I'm expecting. So far, so good? Any questions? Is this making sense? So, the obvious weakness here, we're gradually going through and tightening up the actual login system, making it so that it can't be abused. As far as we are, as far as we've gone with this reasonably simple example. But right now the weakness here is definitely the fact that all of the credentials are stored in a JSON file, right? In order to determine if our credentials are valid, first of all, we have to load all of the credentials. And if you imagine this as like a real website, you might have, several million credentials. Are you going to load every single one of them into the server's memory, crunch through it in a linear fashion, looking for one pair, and then do something? No. You would use a database. Databases are designed for fast searching, right? They use lots and lots of fancy algorithms like B-trees in order to restrict the search space for the thing that you're looking for so that it doesn't take quite so many steps to be able to do that. More on that in your algorithms classes. but even just using binary search, the binary search algorithm will take, like if I had, say, 1 million things I had to search here, using the code I have just written, that takes me 1 million steps, 1 million loop iterations, because I have to iterate through every single item. If the data is organized and is sorted, just sorted, I can use the binary search algorithm, which means that I can search that entire space in about 20 steps, right? And in 21 steps, I can search double that space, right? So basically, the number of steps it takes is the base 2 logarithm of the input size, right? Which means fast, very fast. So right now the algorithm is dumb, but you know, in terms of client-server communication, we're doing pretty okay, but that's kind of what the point of this class is anyway, if that makes sense. So, so where are we? So based on whether the person like when you get logged out, when you log yourself out, you should be kicked back to the login page, right? So,
Could you redirect me to the login page or login page?
yeah. In fact, I think I'm just going to drop it here. Just redirect me to index.php. Now, this is assuming that the logout was successful, right? I don't know why it wouldn't be.
How would the site be unsuccessful?
Well, let's check the PHP documentation. Session unset. It does return a bool. Returns true on success or false on failure. Right? So, if I wanted to be extra super fancy, this is what I would do. I would go to logout.php, and I would echo based on that either true or false. Again, stupid strings, right? Then, in the JavaScript side, and I know this is ending up being a lot of ternaries, but if result is equal to true, you can use strict if you want. Then we do window location.href is index. Otherwise, we do nothing essentially. Just return, I guess. And hopefully that works. There we go. So we log in, Mr. Krabs money, log in, there we go. If we click log out, kicks us back to log in. If I hardwire the logout page to always return false, echo false, that's how you can test this, right? Hardwire this to return false, Mr. Krabs money, log in. On logout not successfully completing, the logout button itself doesn't do anything. Perhaps it would be useful to give some kind of error message. Again, I don't know why on earth unsetting the session would fail, but it's there.
If your Windows pop-up telling me to activate Windows open and open, and I can't close you.
Possibly.
It says the unset sessions of just no, you're not allowed to.
Yeah. But like, oh, unset session would fail if you failed to call session start.
But how would you get into the session without calling session start to then unset the session?
Well, like if you just said session unset and you left out the line session start, which you could do as a mistake,
Then you get the,
then it would probably return false. But if the session is loaded, there's a very high chance that session unset will work. You got a question?
No, I just need to see the logout because my VS Code 8, my logout file is no longer working. I've managed to save everything but anything from logout. It's just gone.
Fortunately, logout is like the shortest one we've done.
I know, luckily.
Session unset, and then
So, once again, this is not the one-page app way of doing this. This is more of the, like, I guess you'd call it web classic way of doing it. A very Ajax-y way of doing it. I hope the amount of JavaScript wasn't. I hope this isn't too much JavaScript. I tried to keep the JavaScript to an absolute minimum. But yeah, any questions about this? I think that makes this a complete example. Does anybody have any features they think that I might add in the next 8 minutes? Anything you really want to see how it's done? Yeah?
It's pretty dumb, but if you change the URL and you put like the login.php instead of the index first, it just shows the. So it's like it could be like a different landing page because it just shows the JSON encode, so like false and message sometimes.
So you're saying like,
Yeah. So
if
like,
I go up here and I say
login.php.
login.php,
Yeah, it just shows that.
yeah, even if I provide like user is Mr. Krabs and password is money, see what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like,
Yeah, it's like pretty. That's why I said it's like not really.
being allowed to do that is very unsecure.
well, not really unsecure.
Well, the fact that I can see the username and password up at the URL.
Oh, well that's just because I did the get instead of post to, like, for teaching purposes. Obviously, if you were doing a real login system, you would use post, not get, so you wouldn't be able to do that quite so easily. But it's easy enough to whip up, you know, a quick little, like, you can even go into the code, into the elements inspector and like give yourself a form to like be able to post data to thing. Or you can like go into the JavaScript console and write your own Ajax, right? You know you can do Ajax from the JavaScript console, right? It doesn't have to be in a JavaScript file. Because you know you can do literally anything in a JavaScript file in the console. Yeah, so it's like you can, but why would you?
Yeah.
Right? Even if like some user were able to like guess what your PHP's name is, what your PHP script's name is, you know what you do if you're really concerned about this? You generate a cryptographically secure string and you make that file name.
Or you use images as file names. You use the code that makes up an image as the file name.
Half of my brain just melted into my ear. No, that's a.
Good luck finding the exact image I'm using. So there's very low likelihood of you finding the right password.
Encryption keys are all of the effect with none of the work. Yeah. Make sense? All good? All right. Any further questions? Yes, no, maybe so? All right. Any questions about assignment 2? Yes.
In terms of the rubric, is there a question 1 and question 3? So
Oh, I haven't updated the rubric yet. Don't worry about the rubric that's there. Yeah. Sorry, it was more important that you have a test to write next week. Yes. Yes, it is. So, any questions about the midterm? Any niggling questions?
We'll see after the review.
Am I training
Yeah.
my wrist for like carpal tunnel?
Yeah.
structure like Java?
Oh, so that's a good question. So the structure of the midterm is going to be somewhat similar to Java. 2 sections, short answer questions and coding questions, right? The short answer questions in Java were primarily about Java syntax and semantics, right? The short answer questions here include material taken from the sort of non-coding topics, right? Like XSS attacks, particularly. You know, how does client-server communication work, right? Those kinds of topics which, you know, I would argue are still very necessary to be able to code the server, right? But it's not directly like, you know, how do you do an object in PHP type thing, right? And by the way, if that made you worry that you have to study objects in PHP, I can confirm for you right now, I am not testing you on objects in PHP on the midterm. I don't
That's
care.
final exam stuff.
Yeah.
On the midterm is very ominous.
Specified on the midterm.
Well,
Very specific.
well, I haven't written the exam, so I can't
Yeah.
speak to the exam, but
I'll do it for programming. So maybe.
there will be objects on the final because you need objects to do the SQL database access. But I'm not, like, the point of this course is not write your own object in PHP, right? As you can see, the way that things are like laid out in a modular fashion, like, where would you even start putting objects in that, right? We're not like, it's too procedural, right? But basically we'd just be adding like an object layer that was unnecessary and doesn't add anything, but just for the sake of having objects, you know? And I'm not a fan of having stuff for the sake of having it. It should be functional, right? Any other questions about the midterm? No, I'm not telling you how many questions there are or how many marks there are. Yes?
Are we writing like a full program or are we writing this like a part of a program or something?
So there are some questions where you will be expected to write some portion of a program. There are some questions where you are expected to write a whole PHP script. However, as you can see from the sorts of examples we were doing in class, PHP scripts do not have to be long. Let me put it to you this way. There's no coding question where I've given you more than 1 page to write your solution.
So it's not gonna be like Java where I have to
Put a
write
page,
GUIs?
just to put a button on the page.
Awesome. Yeah.
Classes, 5 subclasses, 16 inheritances.
Yeah. I'm hoping that you guys, like,
Just to make it
I know that the midterm is like a little bit on the bulky side in terms of like how much of the grade it's worth, right? It's 30% and the exam is also 30%, so you should think of this as a midterm exam, right? But I'm hoping, I always hope this, but I hope on this one particularly, you walk away from the midterm and you're like, well, that wasn't so bad. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't terrible. I don't have to go into therapy after this.
I want to walk out thinking, I think at least I passed.
Yeah, I am particularly hoping that it's not like JavaScript, yeah. Okay, sorry, what did you say?
I said I hope I walk out thinking at least I passed.
Yes, it is my goal that all of my students always pass all of my tests. But you don't get to pass unless you know your stuff. So. All right, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for your time and attention today, folks. Study, study!